and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. This book is so charming, pun intended. This is a cosy autumnal fantasy set around Halloween time. It's about witches and it's got real 90s, noughties kind of vibes. Think Sabrina the Teenage Witch meets Gilmore Girls and meets Bewitched. It is just overwhelmingly wholesome. It's written by Lucy Jane Wood, a YouTuber. This is her debut novel. I started watching Lucy's channel after I found out about this book, and she's just a lovely person, just such a lovely girl living in London, doing her little weekly vlogs. She shared a lot of her experiences of writing this book, getting it published, going to the actual physical printing of the book and watching them print the copies, going to the studio to see the audiobook recorded. Just all of these magical things. I've been watching along and it's just so nice to see a lovely, genuine girl like Lucy succeed in this quite cutthroat publishing world. Her content is really nice, really cosy vibes, so I think it was so smart of her to write a book in the kind of cozy fantasy genre. I think it fits her brand really well. I feel like that's maybe who she is as a person, and that's informed the kind of brand she's made for her YouTube and then what she's gone on to write, and it's all come together very well. I think the cover that they've designed is just really spot on. It's really stunning. The colour palette is amazing. I think it goes with all of her branding really well. She's blogged a lot of her doing the book tour. She's been around Waterstones and stuff. She's always wearing these great little witchy 90s outfits that are just perfect for marketing this book. I really think despite the fact she's a lovely sweet person, she's quite business savvy. I don't think she comes across that way because she's trying to be a friend on camera and be effortlessly kind of cozy and approachable, but I think she must actually have quite a business mindset to have this all be very cohesive. I think she's done a fantastic job, and I think that's something that should be commended. Seeing her be successful, seeing her succeed on YouTube, succeed at publishing, gives me a lot of hope, honestly. I want my dreams to come true in that way that her dreams have come true, and I kind of like to study her videos and how she's doing to see what I can take into my journey. Obviously I'm on step 1 of a journey that she's on step 100 of, with YouTube and with the book. But yeah, it's inspiring, and it's nice to have someone like her to look up to with this. But let's put that to one side. Lovely girl. I'm going to talk about the book now. I'm going to try and separate the artist from the art, but you know, it's fine because most of what I have to say about this book is complimentary. I think it's really good. It's a really fantastic read. I do have a small couple of criticisms. I'll get into that at the end because it goes into spoiler territory, but for now let's talk about the story and what it is and what kind of person would like this book. So this is a cozy fantasy, like I've said, and that coziness comes through in every page of the book. Every time she has to describe a setting or smell or a food or anything sensual, it's she's chosen the coziest possible thing that she can. Belle, our main character, Belladonna Blackthorn, works in this coziest little bookshop ever. It's got ambient lighting, they sell cakes and coffees, they do little Halloween displays, and it's just the most adorable shop ever. It's called Lunar. Could it get more witchy and cute than that? On the opening page, she kind of discusses how when witches or warlocks and witches sense each other when they're in the same room, there's signs that there's another magical person in the room. And she describes this through a number of senses, but one of these is smell. She says that they smell distinct, like earth and embers and crisp toffee apples, combining to a heady, rich scent of what can only be described as warmth and home. That was just a hug in a sentence, and much of the book is like this. It's trying to hug you and make you cozy and have nice scents and nice sensations throughout the book. I don't think this writing style is for everybody, but I think if you're in the mood for this kind of story, you get on board with that. I think it's perfect, and I like the way she brings senses into it in that way. I think in general for a debut novel, this was well written. There wasn't too many times where I thought the language was bad or clunky or anything like that, but there is a distinctive style to the language, again, that I don't think would be for everyone. It's kind of written it's almost a children's story, kind of middle grade fiction age range. I could imagine reading this to a child and it not being inappropriate for them. It's quite unusual because you don't read a lot of adult books that are written in this kind of style. Maybe you do in the cozy fantasy kind of genre, which admittedly I've not read a lot of, but it's quite nice to read a children's book that is actually still geared toward adults. I do think you have to be in the mood for it though, and I also think, well, it's great to have like a Halloween autumnal book, and it will sell well around that time of year and people will read it and enjoy it at that time of year. Because it is so seasonal, I can't imagine reading this book in the summer or like at Christmas time or anything like that. I've kind of rushed to get this review out in November still before we get into Christmas and into December because of that. I didn't feel like I could talk about this book outside of the season. So I think that's the only thing that's maybe limiting it slightly. Like initially I bought this book and was quite excited to read it, but was going on a sunny holiday around Halloween time, so I had to actually read it in November to just have that autumn vibe with it, otherwise it wouldn't have felt right. So I think this book has done very well since it came out in September, but I'm wondering, I'd be curious to see like if the sales drop off as we get into like Christmas in January, because it's so Halloween focused. The story, I would say, is targeted very much for women in their 20s, late 20s, maybe like 30. It's very much about being a woman of that age and having struggles with self-esteem or with like where you're going in your life. The basic premise is that Belle got her magical powers, discovered she was a witch at the age of 15, and she's kind of been squandering her powers a little bit ever since. She's basically been using it to like make a cup of tea, carry a cup of tea here, build an outfit for the day. She's done a few like more questionable things, I won't say because I don't want to spoil it. Nothing too bad, but basically kind of uninspired, lazy, nothing very special with her powers. And then she turns 30 and learns that she has to do what's called an Equi-Witch trial, which kind of demarks that period of her life where she's spent half of her time, 1 to 15, as a non-witch, and the other half, 15 to 30, as a witch. And she kind of goes through, they go through like what she's done, what she's achieved, and basically decide if she has been evil or squandered her powers so much that she deserves to have them taken away. So she didn't know this was coming. No one knows what's coming. It's standard, and this is the premise of the book. Obviously, you know something's going to go wrong. She's going to maybe like lose her powers and have to be rewitched, because that's what the title says and that's what the blurb says. Pacing wise, that whole thing that I described takes a third of the book. Takes a third of the book to get to the Equi-Witch trial, and I've seen a few people online like criticise that pacing. It feels okay in the moment because that part of the book's quite interesting and it's quite compelling, so even though it's a slow start, it's nice, it feels like suitable, but I do think that the rest of the book especially the middle part, feels a little bit rushed as a result of that. So it turns out, you know, she does this kind of ceremony. It's not great. They're like, you've not been great with your powers, you have squandered them, you've been a bit lazy and whatnot. Tear her to shreds a little bit, it's a little bit brutal, but then this loophole is found very conveniently that for the month of October until Halloween, she could actually do a mentorship, try to complete different challenges in this grimoire and reset kind of the Equi-Witch trial and maybe get to keep her powers after all. So she does this, and that's what the book is about. We also have a subplot where she's living with her best friend, they love each other like as friends, and but she doesn't know she's a witch, so she's kind of held that part of herself back and kept her powers hidden. She also works at this very cute bookshop. The owner has retired and she's offered Belle to buy the shop off of her. Now Belle doesn't have like a lot of money, she's just like on this bookseller's salary living in a shared flat in London, but somehow like potentially does have the money to buy this flat. I don't think that's very believable. Not the flat, the shop. Don't think that's very believable, but it's cozy fantasy. I'm just like, whatever, I'm not going to question the logic too much. But Belle doesn't do this because she lacks confidence. She doesn't want the business to fail. Even though she's been working there 10 years, knows it inside out, basically manages the whole shop, does everything, she still doesn't have the confidence to buy the shop. And the woman's son instead manages the shop, and he's a bit of a cartoon villain. He's just very corporate, he's very misogynist. He wants to like take down the Halloween display and put like corporate books in the window. Really bad idea from a business standpoint, really doesn't know the customer base. Comes across as like just a misogynistic idiot, like he couldn't be any worse if he tried. But despite the fact that he's ruining the shop and making her life hell, she still doesn't buy the shop. So that's where we are with her at the start of the novel. She's lacking his confidence. She's going to have her powers taken away. She's to learn to master her powers, learn to believe in herself, and, you know, become Rewitched. And I really enjoyed the story. It was really nice. I like, you know, it's cozy, it's happy, things work out kind of the way you would want them to. And it had a distinctly kind of Harry Potter feel. I think some of the characters felt Harry Potter-esque. I think that, what was her name, Bronwyn, she had a little bit of like Dolores Umbridge vibes, and a lot of the names felt very Harry Potter-esque, like Belladonna Blackthorn and Arcturus Day. I feel like Arcturus Day, like you could meet him in the Highlands of Hogwarts Legacy, and he'd have his little pink hat and be very cute and adorable and offer you tea. And yeah, very Harry Potter-esque, very much like magic but in the real world, in London. The Muggles don't know, they don't call them Muggles, but kind of magic hidden in plain sight. The magic's quite simple and vague. It's everything you'd expect. They like brew potions, they do divination of like looking in crystal balls or doing tarot cards, they charge crystals, they do transference, which is like apparition basically. They get to know the earth and plants and use them in potions. They do spells. Some people use wands, but most people use a gesture of some kind that they choose on their 15th birthday. Belle chooses like a finger point, but other people choose like other really weird things. Someone chose to burp because that's what a 15-year-old boy would choose, which I thought was quite a funny detail. And yeah, it's just got this Harry Potter feel. The spells they're kind of written as like incantations almost, like in verse, or they could be short. They're always like Latin names, again similar to Harry Potter, but it was all still very easy, very cozy. She wears like a witch's hat and a cape for like her official coven business. Her cape actually like shows a night sky on the day she was born, so everyone's got their own cape. That's a really cute detail. There's this part in like the Hecate house where the coven live. They've got this library with lots of different nooks, and each nook has a window with a different setting outside the window, just magically. And that's really cute, that's really cozy as well. Everything about the setting is just charming, and it's a world you really want to get lost in. So if that all sounds good to you, give it a read. I would give this like 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. If you're in the right mood, if you're in the right headspace, if it doesn't sound like it's for you, don't read it. I do think it's got quite a niche market, but it hits that market very well. But unfortunately we're like coming into Christmas now, so you might have to wait until next year to feel in the mood to read it. Now let's get into spoiler territory, because I'm sure a lot of people here out this video, it's after Halloween. I'm sure if you were going to read it this year, you've already read it by now. So stick around and let's like discuss maybe some of my more negative critiques and talk a little bit more about what actually happened. So Belle works through these challenges in the grimoire, and my first critique is that like a lot of these challenges and as part of this mentorship kind of happen off screen. Not off screen, but you know what I mean, like off the page. You kind of go through the chapters and she's suddenly on like challenge 7. It's day 7 and we've ticked off 2 of the grimoire challenges. And I'm like, oh, that would have maybe been good to see. So each of these grimoire challenges covers a different aspect of magic. So there's like divination, earth magic, incantation work, necromancy, potion brewing. And we see her go through this mentorship with Arcturus and try to master all of these little things. She barely gets any sleep. She's still working in the bookshop. She becomes, you know, really annoyed with everyone and has a challenging time as she tries to tick off these challenges because she's been neglecting her magic for so long. And as she does this, there's some dark forces kind of messing with her spells and making them fail. This mentorship is led by Arcturus, who has kind of fallen into disgrace because he killed his brother. Quite serious subject matter. But when Belle meets Arcturus, he is a really sweet old man and doesn't seem like the kind of person that would murder at all. So she quickly just likes him and trusts him and never questions for one moment why that he might be like have something to do with the interference of her spells. And she's right, he doesn't, but it's a bit odd that she doesn't question him at all. It's very nice, it's very like happy, but it doesn't like make a lot of logical sense. And Rin, who's like the love interest, and her mum are a bit more skeptical of Arcturus, although he does win them over, and they kind of bring this up with her like, I don't feel like you're taking this whole like murder thing as seriously as you should. You seem to be like naively trusting him. And she's like, no, I know fine well. But she is naively trusting him. So like, yes, they turn out to be wrong, but they aren't wrong about that. Like, she is technically still being naive. It turns out in the end that, of course, this sweet little old man actually wasn't a murderer. He actually turns out to be like her great uncle. Because he was the brother of her gran, but they had memory spells on them, and their other siblings turn out to be Morena and Bronwyn, the sisters that run the coven, and they turn out to be evil, and it was mainly Bronwyn. Bronwyn's the evil one, and she's been trying to tamper with Belle's magic and get rid of Belle because she's threatened by her for some reason, because she's like family, I guess, technically. Even though Belle is not that powerful, has squandered her magic. And she had every opportunity to like just get rid of Belle at the Rewitched trial. For some reason, she lets her like do this mentorship, which turns out to be Bronwyn's downfall, because then like Belle starts believing in herself, getting better, finds out the truth because she put her with Arturus. Bronwyn was hoping that this would bring down both Belle and Arturus, but Arturus was like pretty done already. He was pretty cast out, and Belle was like pretty much out of the coven as well, if she hadn't pushed to like keep her in and do this mentorship. So I think that was a bit of a stupid plan from Bronwyn. Don't think it makes a lot of logical sense. And yeah, like I said, she's a bit Umbridge like, so wasn't that surprised that she turned out to be a bad guy. And Belle nearly gives up, but decides to keep going after having a very cheesy conversation with herself, her childhood self in the past. And then she finds out the truth. She manages to like magically complete her grimoire challenges as she faces down the Bronwyn and Morena, the sisters. What are they called? The Gowden sisters, that's it. While she faces down the sisters, and then it all lives happily ever after. And that was all great. I quite liked like the mystery aspect and there being a little twist. I thought that was good. Again, quite Harry Potter. Although she didn't like really question the narrative too much of the murder. She was like, this doesn't seem right, but she didn't do a lot of actual digging. It was almost lucky that she stumbled upon the truth when she did. It wasn't like in Harry Potter where they are actually trying to solve a mystery actively. She just kind of passively solved the mystery. So that would be one critique just for the execution of that plot element. And like I said, this mentorship and the challenges were quite non-specific, and it would have been good if these challenges were like a little bit more specific and had a bit of an arc to them, so that Belle had to overcome some aspect of herself in each trial rather than just mastering like general magic. Like the way it actually plays out is that she makes a healing potion, and she makes a nice potion and another nice potion, and then that ticks off the potion element. I think it would have been better if Belle had addressed some of the personal issues that she actually has in the brewing of these potions, and that related more to her character development more directly. I thought that would have demonstrated the theme and the point of the story a lot better. And this is very important. This is where I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. And I already had a bit of a rant about this on TikTok. I kind of did a first impressions TikTok about this book before I'd finished the book. But what I said in that TikTok does stand. So Belle is a frustrating character. For someone that is 29, 30, she really frustrates me personally. Maybe because I'm the same age, or I'm 31. But Belle lacks a lot of belief in herself. She lacks belief about her magic and belief about owning this shop. She's a good person and she does like nice things for other people. But there are times where this turns a little bit toxic. For example, she meddles with Ariadne, her best friend's exam results, because she actually failed some of her exams and wasn't going to be able to get into the uni that she wanted to get into. She actually changed the grades so that she could go to the uni that she wanted, which is nice but super problematic, because maybe Ariadne would have grown from failing. Maybe she was meant to go to that other university. She really shouldn't be meddling like that. I don't think it's very moral. And she justifies it because, well, Ariadne is like the smartest person ever and she deserves to go to this other university. But the grades, not to sound like a teacher's pet or like to beat up the university's arse, because I do think the grades are high, and you don't necessarily need those high grades to do well at uni. But doing well at exams, being in control of your anxiety is important for going to uni. It's a skill she'll need. So maybe if she can't master that skill, maybe she can't go to a really prestigious university. Maybe she would do better at a different university. And I don't think it's fair to say, like, it doesn't matter that she failed her exams because she's really smart anyway. Exams aren't the be all and end all, it's true, but working in under exam conditions is important for uni, and it can be important for life. So that was really brushed over. The characters, like Morena, did say that was wrong, but Belle in that moment is really defensive about it, and she never goes back on it. She doesn't have character development about that specifically. She never says, you know what, that was actually wrong. She also uses her magic in really lazy ways. I mean, I would be lazy as well if I had magic, let's be honest. So I'm not going to bash her too much for that. But it is a character flaw, and it doesn't really, I feel like character flaws should get in the character's way in some way. But it doesn't get in her way in this book, and she doesn't really learn to overcome that laziness. She's also like insecure. She tries to like change her appearance, and she's a little bit vain. Again, understandable for like a young person, and that's probably what you would use magic for. But again, she's defensive. She never has this moment of growth from that where she realizes that she was maybe being a little bit narcissistic, a little bit insecure, and that she should just have faith and kind of be at peace with her face and her body. She never has that growth. So I feel like in the manifests in the Rewitched trial, they bring up a lot of legit criticisms of Belle as a character, kind of puts her flaws on blast, and I don't feel like she really learns from that or grows from them. I think she's just very defensive, and over the course of the rest of the book, those flaws don't seem to hold her back that much. She doesn't really learn to overcome them. She just kind of learns magic, and as a byproduct believes in herself. Same goes for the whole buying the shop thing. Christopher makes her life a misery. He makes the business a misery. He is really ruining the business. Takes her a long time for her to finally quit, finally stand up to him, finally buy the shop. But it doesn't really come about that much like in association with the plot and this mentorship and this learning the magic. It's almost like she's so exhausted from learning magic that she just loses her temper one day and is like, you know what, I can't do this. And that's fine, I'm glad she got over that, but I wish there had been more relation between the magic plot and her having self-belief in that area, so that it just fit together a little bit better. It really frustrated me in the beginning that she wouldn't just buy the shop, because it didn't make that much sense to me why she lacked self-belief in that area. I thought that, you know, over the course of the novel we might discover that she'd had some bullying, or maybe had like a bad relationship where she'd lost that spark and she'd lost that confidence for some reason. Maybe some kind of trauma. I didn't think it would go too deep into trauma because it's kind of a light cozy read, but I thought there would be some reason why she was scared and why she wasn't doing that, but there wasn't. She just was kind of like that. She was just kind of a failure to thrive, and it's not that sympathetic to me because there's not a very good reason for it. As far as I can see, Bella's like perfectly fine, privileged person. She's even more privileged than the average person because she's got magic. She could have used magic to help the business succeed if she bought the bookshop earlier. Even without magic, she is an adult. She is a 30-year-old adult. She could have taken a business course. There's so many things she could have done to make sure it doesn't fail. And I think this is part of being an adult. Like, sometimes you'll get an opportunity to like have a promotion at work, say, and you might not feel ready for that, and you might not be ready for it, but if you look around, you look at the candidates, like the options are an external candidate that doesn't know your company, that might come up and make a mess of it. It might be other people that have less experience in your own department. It might be someone that doesn't have any experience at all. It might be someone that does have experience but has a bad attitude. There comes times when you say, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I think that I could probably rise to the challenge and do a good job. If I don't step up, the person that does step up might not be as good for the job. They might not do as good a job as I could do. And even though I'm scared, even though it's daunting, because I love this bookshop and I do know it inside and out, I think I can do a good job even though it scares me. That's what you do. You see an opportunity, you see a gap in the responsibility and you step up and you take that responsibility. The fact that Belle can't do that and has no legit reason for her lack of self-belief frustrates me. If she was 21 or 22, I would completely get it, but by 29, 30, you really need to be getting over this. And I don't feel like she did get over that in this book. I don't think her character development achieved that kind of aim that was set out. I think that could have been a really good lesson and a really good theme for people in this age group. Like, evil rises up when good people do nothing. And that's kind of what's going on in this bookshop. This bad guy, this misogynist that's going to ruin the business, steps up into this vacuum, this power vacuum created by Belle not stepping up and Violet stepping down. And this is all because Belle just stands back and lets this happen. She has all of the agency, the money, the magic. Apparently she's got the money, it doesn't make sense. She has it all within her power to just step up and stop this bad man from getting into like power. And she doesn't, because she lacks self-belief for no reason. That's really careless, and I wish that was a lesson that she'd learned. I wish that was a lesson in the book that it had addressed. I think, you know, using magic in a fantasy world to address how that power happens, that power vacuum can happen, would have been really good. And I think there was opportunity with, you know, the sisters stepping up into that power vacuum created by, what was the brother's name? The dragon brother. When he died, they stepped up into that gap. And Arcturus and Belle's gran couldn't do anything about stopping that because their memories were wiped. That's fair enough. That subplot and that main plot could have went around that theme, and Belle getting her magic back, getting her spark back, could have had more emotional impact if there had been a good reason for her not having it, and if she'd learned her lesson and learned to really master that dark part of herself, the narcissistic part, the part that lacked confidence, everything, all of these flaws, the laziness. Instead, the message of the book kind of ended up being like, just believe in yourself because you're a woman and you've got power and you deserve this and you are deserving, and you just need to take this and take back your power and no one can take it from you. And that's nice, but I think there needs to be some responsibility and accountability taken as well. Sometimes people take our spark and we have to get it back from them, get our power back, but it seems like no one really took Belle's spark except from herself. And rather than like accepting these criticisms, she just is defensive, and then she learns to get over it and say, I do deserve this, I will have my magic, maybe I will step up and be the leader of the coven. But I don't feel like it's earned, because she doesn't say, you know what, I was wrong and I could have done this better and I'm going to be better going forwards. I'm going to be a leader in this coven, I'm going to be a leader in this bookshop, and I'm going to be a positive force in this world. I'm going to have agency and responsibility and be a true adult. I probably sound like a little bit of a Jordan Peterson in saying all of this, of like, you should clean up your room before you try and clean up the world, and you should take responsibility and you shouldn't lie, and these 12 rules for life. But I think that that's a really good message for young people these days, and I think this book could have delivered that message, and it didn't. Instead, it was a nice, cozy hug of a book. It was a cup of tea, a cup of pumpkin spice latte. I had fun, I enjoyed it, I felt cozy, and it was very Hallmark, very feel good. But it didn't hit me in the feels or call me out the way I thought it could have done. If I was like Belle, and I have been like Belle in the past, I have lacked self-belief, I have lacked self-esteem, I've been scared of responsibility, I've like not liked myself, but I've gotten through that, not with magic, but with just pure grit, and I've learned to step up and, you know, take responsibility, do hard things that need to be done, follow my dreams. I don't need some threat of losing my power to do it. And I feel like Belle, if she hadn't had that Rewitched trial, would she ever have bought the shop? Would she ever have done anything? Would she have just squandered her magic for the rest of her life if she hadn't had that wake-up call? I kind of feel like that's the point of the book, and like that was the driver of her change. Maybe she would have woken up at 40 and finally gotten her shit together, but I'm not sure. And that makes me like lose a little bit of respect for her as a character. So that is my main critique of the book. Did have a good time, it was nice, I would recommend it. I just wanted a little bit more substance because it is an adult book at the end of the day, and you are speaking to adults. A side note, with it being an adult book, but you know, middle grade style, I won't talk too much about the love story in this because it's just nice, it's cute, between Rune and Bill. But although I didn't really feel like why he was so attracted to her, he was like 100 or 200 years old, right? It was just a little bit insta lovey. I think she put Rune as a character in the edit, like he wasn't there from the beginning, and that maybe shows a little bit. But I think there's a moment in the book, and it's quite fun. It's quite a fun chapter. But they nearly like hook up basically, and they kind of talk about that at the end, like during the battle. He's like, I shouldn't have said it was just a potion. I was like, time and place. Like this is not the time and place. But anyway, they have this moment where they nearly hook up because of a potion, and it went a little bit like she was straddling him and stuff. And I think because it's written in that childlike middle grade Harry Potter style, it was a little bit, took me back a little bit. I'm like, oh, are we gonna have a smut scene? Like this doesn't seem like the kind of book for a smutty book. Did stop, and it didn't really cross that line at all. So I think it was fine. But I think having the romance was mostly innocent, but I think for this style, to really pull off the style, you have to stay in that innocent realm with the romance, and that kind of went up to the line. But I'm not mad at it. It was fun. It was a fun miscommunication, I suppose. I'm sure people all love that chapter, so I'll shut up now. I just thought I'd mention that with where the tone went possibly a little awry. But that's all for this review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you liked it. I put out new videos every week. I mostly do book reviews, but I'm going to have another few kinds of videos coming up. I'm going to talk about my New Year's goals, and I'm going to talk about my writing and how it's going a little bit. So like this video, talk to me in the comments, and if you like this review, drop a like and watch one of my other reviews. It's in one of these boxes, and subscribe to my channel. It's in the other box. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.